Babble with Ben.
This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation. I wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be participating today. Welcome to the Babble. My name is Ben Charlie Brown. This week's guest is a four-piece band called Wykd Folk. As the name suggests, they perform folk and rock music. I had the pleasure of being joined by the lead singer, Brian Morley, as well as bassist Alex Stojilovic and drummer Even Friedin. We talk about their experiences gigging around Melbourne, as well as the influences they've had. We also dive into Brian's experiences as a member of the Stolen generation and the mentors and help that he's had in his career. This interview was recorded on January 18th, 2024 at Studio C in Box Hill Institute, Melbourne. My apologies for such a long time between the recording and the release of this podcast. I hope you enjoy my interview with Wykd Folk. Welcome to the Babble, Wykd Folk. Thanks for having you on, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Now, for the people at home, we have Brian over here.
Hello.
We've got Alex over here, and we've got Evan over here.
Hello.
Now, can you guys just take a quick moment to explain what your roles are in the band, starting with Brian?
Well, I suppose I'm the vocal point of the band. I write the songs that we do. We only do songs I've written, and I play rhythm guitar.
Very cool, very cool.
I play bass.
I play drums or djembe.
Very good, very good. The percussion.
Yeah, percussion.
Very good. Now, the last EP you guys put out was the Progress EP, and I believe that this is it right here, Brian.
It
is.
is.
That right?
That's the very one.
Shall we show the people at home? Where can they get it if they're looking for it? Has it been put out yet? Or have you... No, you grabbed it this morning,
I only
didn't
picked
you?
them up this morning.
Yeah.
Hot off the presses. I'm not quite sure. I think through Bandcamp. Greg, the guy that's organising our social medias, I think he set up a web page where I think at the end of the month people will be able to purchase it there. And the best thing about this vinyl is it comes with a download card. I recorded an album about 4 or 5 years ago with a violinist. Great album on vinyl, but they didn't have a download card, so a lot of people are hesitant to buy it if they haven't got a record player.
There are quite a few people out there that have got the vinyl collection but no record player. I think people like something tangible, something to hold, right? Rather than just something on the screen.
Like
so
the artwork on this looks so much better on the full-size version than on my phone. That I've only ever seen it, you know. I was quite pleased when I saw it this morning when I picked them up.
Did you tell me before who did the artwork? I can't remember the name of the guy.
It's on the back here.
It'll be on your socials.
I am the social is his moniker online. Don't quote me, I think his name's Greg.
Yeah.
I've never met the guy. He lives in Wollongong.
Oh, yeah, cool.
But he gets it. He's picked up the ball and ran with it and come up with the design. And I'm more than pleased with the logo that he's come up with and the general look of the front of the cover.
Yeah. Oh, it looks great. No, you can see, it's got it all there. You know?
That's a picture of a section of the Grampians, or Jerry-word is the traditional name for it.
And the eagle has a meaning too, yeah?
Well, the wedge-tailed eagle was regarded as the supreme god in a lot of Aboriginal nations. Not sure if that's right for all around the country, but certainly in Victoria. His name was Bunjil.
Aha, yep.
So, and that was a stroke of genius in putting the eagle on top of the logo there.
Because what mob are you? What country? If that's the right...
Wykd
cool.
Which is one of the clans that make up the nation called Jardwa Jali. I was born in Horsham.
Yep.
Spent the first 2.5 years in Dimboola. And then one day the police and welfare came into the house and removed my older brother, myself and my younger sister, and I'm part of the Stolen generation.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I was listening to Progress on the way in and I heard the song Dreamtime and I'm like, oh yeah, there it is.
That's my Stolen generation story. That's the first song I ever wrote. I was writing poetry. Started writing poetry when I was about 30. And at one point, I was performing that at poetry nights. And then at one point I thought, well, songs are just poems, so I borrowed an acoustic guitar, and here we are today, talking about an EP that we've done of my songs.
How does that feel? Like it's a, because it's a long journey from, poetry. How many years ago?
Well, I was 66 a couple of weeks ago, so it's been 35 odd years since I started doing this. I've taught myself how to do what I do, but I don't find the actual writing process very hard at all. Most songs are written in less than an hour. Once I get an idea, it's sort of, before I know it, I've got 6 or 8 verses. And I showed the band a new song the other day I only wrote 2 weeks ago. And the consensus was, it's a pretty good song, so...
Yeah, he always manages to bring them out somehow, and it's always fun working out what they need.
I write songs that touch people, that people can relate to. I call them the human songs that everybody can relate to. I just don't write for black fellas. I write for everybody. That's how I view myself.
I could tell when I was listening to the EP on the way in today, I was like, oh yeah, there's no Pro Tools, no one lining up the drum beats, there's no auto-tune, it was just there and it was human and it was really nice. They
were all recorded live. I'm really proud of the band. We put a lot of work in. And a lot of credit's got to go to Blak Open Stage that's on every Tuesday night at the Retreat Hotel in Sydney Road, Brunswick. That's where we've honed our craft, I think, and while we can record live.
What was it recorded there? Where did you do the EP?
5 of the songs were done in the 3RRR's band room. Evan knew someone there, and they have a live-to-air thing every Friday night from their band room that goes out on the radio, and the band pulled out one night and the room was available, so...
Oh, wow, and there it is. That's all, yeah.
All we had to do was pay the engineer. So we got the room for nothing, which was great. And we just set up all in a circle looking at each other and, right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we did 5 songs in that session.
Wow. So that's a pretty sort of spontaneous production, hey?
Yeah. I regard us as being a very good live band. You know, what you hear on that is what you'll hear when you come to see us. Because we put the work in, everybody knows their role and what their parts are, and generally, it's pretty tight.
I think it suits that style of music too, because it's a very earthy sort of true, I don't feel like you're putting on a character when you're singing those songs.
Some of the best comments I get after we've played is people like me because I'm real.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be anybody else, it's hard enough being me. It's very gratifying when you touch people at a core level.
Yeah, there's nothing like it, is there? When you are looking out into that crowd or when you get that feedback, it's really magic.
Yeah, I've had people with tears in their eyes thanking me for my honesty about things. I'm sure the band's had some pretty cool comments afterwards as well.
Who were your role models as you were learning to be a musician?
Always into Neil Young.
Yep.
So a big influence. Cat Stevens. Songwriters like that who write stories. I don't write pop songs. I write stories. I'm a storyteller. And I think that's continuing tradition of the old people of this country. There would have been a songman in every clan. I think that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, it's a very human thing, isn't it? Storytelling.
Yeah, and that's the way that knowledge was passed down in Aboriginal culture for 60,000 plus years. So they must have been doing something right.
Definitely. And how about yourself, Alex? What are your sort of influences as a musician?
When I was younger, I learnt violin predominantly, and I was involved in choirs. So I was very into, I guess, choral music and classical. But the first band I really got into was probably Muse. And then Radiohead, and then that kind of, you look up a band's influences and it sends you down a bunch of rabbit holes. So then you find out all sorts. And I would say probably at the moment, playing bass, I'd say Birthday Party is a big influence, Nick Cave and Tracy Pugh and that kind of era of bass player, is kind of where I get a lot of ideas from.
Very good. And yourself, Evan?
Well, I got into drums because of a Green Day, actually.
Oh, really?
Way back when I was young, it's really cool. The drummer, he was like my hero at the time. So that's how I got in drums, and like my taste of it, expanded more and more, like heavily into like metal, but also like rock as well, and like old rock. And I feel like what I do here is heavily inspired from like Dave Grohl's style of drumming, especially in like the violin, the sort of hard hitting, heavy, like that have really sort of lift up the songs. But at the same time, I also have to keep it cool down for some of the more calmer songs we have here.
It's a bit like I'm riding a thoroughbred racehorse and holding Evan back. But there's times where we let him have his head and he goes for it. So
He's had a good trot now. Now he can have a gallop.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's a time and a place for everything, Alex plays sublime bass. He really does.
Thank you.
And some of the runs he does, still excite me, even though I've heard them 50 million times.
So it's all just the Beatles. when you go back far enough, Paul McCartney.
And Jack, who isn't here
everything.
today, I think he's one of the better guitarists around. He's not like your typical lead guitarist who plays the same hook or whatever every song. He's more like a jazz guitarist. He's got a format for each song, and he works within that format. But some of the stuff he does is amazing.
I was one of the songs in particular. I was like, oh yeah, he's just playing different stuff every time, and it just works. So I can definitely hear that. Yeah, Jack has that jazz influence.
Yeah, he's got full reign to do what he wants, sort of thing. I'm not a lead guitarist, so I wouldn't dare tell him how to play lead guitar. I just let him do what he does.
It's good to have those roles in the band, yeah, because if you've got two people that know a little bit about what each other does, then they can sort of start to manage each other.
Well, it's funny, Alex and Jack start talking technical, and it's all over the top of my head, so you sit back and smile and listen. I haven't got a clue what they're talking about half the time.
Mine too, man. just let them talk about the minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just figuring out what you've written, and a lot of the time it's very interesting, kind of how you write.
The new song I presented the other night after a rehearsal, I said, "Oh, have a listen to this," and they were onto it straight away once they worked out what the bar chords were. So,
do you show them, or you just pick it up by ear?
I just played it for them, and they just, come in,
jumped in on it.
I mean, obviously, yeah. A lot of the time, I'm looking pretty intently at where his hand is positioned, so I can figure it out that way.
Because I haven't got a clue what I'm playing half the time. If it sounds good, it is.
A lot of people work that way. I think even Paul McCartney worked that way, right? And sometimes it just works, Yeah, because I'm here studying at Box Hill, right? So I study music performance, and as part of that, we study music theory. And they'll go on and they'll talk about, oh yeah, well here's a A7 flat 9, and then they'll say, oh yeah, that's the secondary dominant of like a E7 or something, and then you just go, oh yeah, but then Jimi Hendrix used it in Purple Haze, and you go, oh, there's that song. So it's kind of like, yeah. And I mean, I remember hearing a story about Miles Davis and Jimi Hendrix, and Miles Davis said something along the lines of, oh, Jimmy, can you play over this chord? And Jimmy was like, oh, I'm not sure. And then Miles just played it on the piano, and Jimmy just soloed all over it, right? So it's funny how, people can go down this rabbit warren of music theory, and it can be very valuable, but it's not essential. It's kind of like hearing it and playing with it is the most important thing, I think.
I think a lot of people who get too technical with it, I call it getting a bit too Albert Einstein with things. And the melody and the groove is lost, when they're trying to show off and doing diminished sevenths and suspended whatevers and whatever,
Yeah.
All of my songs have got a bit of a groove to them. They were described as being like a steam train. They chug along for the most part. I'm not the world's best guitarist, but that's not my main focus. My main focus is writing the words and singing them.
The storytelling, yeah, definitely. How did you guys come together as a band?
Jack and I met at a open mic, and Jack was friends with Alex. And then Alex and Jack were in a little three-piece thing with this other dude, and I had an invite to come and play with them once a week to start their second set.
Yeah, cool.
At a little venue in, where's the Merry Clan?
Yeah, Mary Clan.
Gilbert Road,
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
Preston, somewhere like that.
I remember. Yeah.
That's how I met Alex. But then that came to a bit of a stop because that venue closed down.
Oh.
And Jack is actually a doctor, and his last placement in his doctor training was Bendigo Hospital. So that put a spanner in the works for about 3 years. But I feel like a stalker following people on Facebook. I kept an eye on him, and when I realised he was back in Melbourne, I got in touch and went down to Frankston. We sat in a cafe for a couple of hours having a chat, and it's all sort of grown from there. And we needed a drummer. We had a really good cajon player, Damien Vandergeer, but he was working one shift for a month, another shift for the next month. So
like FIFO sort of stuff?
Yeah, so it was going to be, he's going to be out of action for a month at a time. So I looked on Musos looking for Musos, and
On a Facebook?
Evan had put a thing up, drummer looking for bands, and there was only two people that approached him, me and Chris, was it?
Oh yeah, Chris, for my punk band Villians. Please see us on Villians-AU on Facebook and
The plug.
Instagram.
Absolutely.
Villians-AU.
They're a pretty cool punk band.
And don't forget Sweatshop as well over here.
not to forget
if it's times to
Yeah.
plug, there's time to plug. Hey?
Sweatshop.music on Instagram. I'm in it with Jack as well. That's actually how I got back in contact with Jack. I contacted him to be part of that project, and through that, I got back in contact with Brian. So, yeah, it eventuated in something great. So, yeah, happy to be
It
part
sort
of
of
it.
all happened really organically. I've always felt like I'm never going to twist anybody's arm to play with me. I want people to play with me because they like what I do and think they can add something to it. And it's certainly the case with the band. I'm not a dictator at all. I like to think it's a democratic band, and I always ask the guys, right, what songs do you want to play tonight? It's not just, right, we're going to do these songs in this set and that's it. Everybody gets a say.
Being the dictator is exhausting. Yeah. You certainly don't want to be dragging people by the collar going, right, we're going to this gig. We're going to put, 3 posts out a week or whatever. Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be involved in a music mentor program with Songlines Aboriginal music 30-odd year ago, and people like Paul Kelly and Paul Hester were involved.
Wow. Yeah.
And Paul Kelly gave us a bit of advice, and he said, if you're the main songwriter in the band, keep your name front and centre because bands break up. Paul Kelly and the Dots, Paul Kelly and the Messengers. But I was 66 a couple of weeks ago. This is probably my last band, so we stopped calling it Brian Morley and Wykd Folk about 18 months ago. It's now Wykd Folk. Yeah.
WYKD.
WYKD. There's a little story behind that name.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
I had a music room out the back of a garage in a house that I lived with my first wife, and we were having a jam there one night, and a couple other guys rocked up and stood there and listened for a while, and when we finished, one of them said, oh, they're like Wykd Folk songs. So that was implanted in the memory, and when we were looking for a name a while ago, I've come up with Wykd Folk. We have a bit of a play on that as to who's the wickedest one in the band. I suspect I have been, but mellowed a little bit as I've gotten older. But and we've spelled it WYKD, and it looks great graphically, I think.
Well, there's a real symmetry to it, hey? You've got 4 and 4.
Yeah. I'm a bit pedantic about spelling, but at first I was a bit hesitant, but it's certainly grown on me. It looks fabulous, I think.
A big influence of mine is a group called Daft Punk, who had much of a similar story, right? Like they do dance music, but they had originally started with like a punk band, and someone said, or like a guitar band, right? And then someone in the audience said, oh, that's some Daft Punk, and they were like, oh, hey, that's got a
That's a good name.
So, because I was going to say, you guys have definitely got that folky vibe. There's a bit of rock in there, definitely a bit of blues as well.
Yeah, it's been called folk with a rock attitude.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of sums it up nicely, because we can rock.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only folk rock drummer who uses double pedals.
Double kicks.
Double kicks.
One of the songs we do on this, the title track, everybody's got carte blanche to cut loose in the instrumental sections of the song. When I wrote the song about 8 years ago, I imagined everybody drops off when I'm singing, and as soon as I stop singing, bang, everybody kicks in, and it's like a wall of sound to assault the audience. And that's where Evan can bring out his punk.
I was going to say, you let Evan off the leash,
Yeah.
And then come the blast beats.
Instrumentalists appreciate that, you know, because you can get... You listen to modern pop song now, right? And of course it's got a time and a place where, it's, you know, like it's really polished, really produced. But I find that less and less there are even solos in pop music these days, right? There's very little room for an instrumentalist to express themselves. It's all, you know, vocal front and centre, right? So it's good when, you know, like real's not the right word, but an organic sort of non-quantized, if you know, the music, like someone is not, speaking of non-quantized, right? Do you guys play to a click? Is the question?
No,
I didn't think so. Yeah.
I've been complimented over the years at how good my timing is. I've always played with a little drum machine.
Yep.
It's just like a super metronome, and so my timing has developed pretty well. And when I've recorded things in the past and they've checked it all the way through, it's pretty close to where the click should be. But I find a click track distracting.
It can work for like dance music, but I find like I'm in a punk band too, and I find that we never use a click, right? Because there is like a push and the pull with the band. Like you know, sometimes if it's a dramatic section, you either want to speed it up or slow it down. And if you're there battling with the click, like it can sometimes just be a massive distraction.
Yeah, it puts me off. Yeah. But looking back, you can see that I keep time pretty well. I've had compliments of people over the years. It makes it easy for a guitarist like Jack to go off on a tangent and come back and I'm still where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, it goes a long way because, if you're way, way, way off, then it does make it harder. But if you're if you're in the pocket, right, then, with a little bit of room to go one way or the other, it's magic. It's really good.
Actually, one of the songs we do that we haven't recorded is called Merchants of War. And Alex actually starts that with this really cool bass run.
Thank you.
I'd played that song the same way for 25 years and I had me doubts as to whether a new intro would sort of work and how easy it would be to, get used to that. But it's such a great intro to the song.
That's one of the joys about... because a lot of the time in my band, I will bring together something I've made, even years ago, right? And then when you sort of, because sometimes you can feel quite protective of it and you'll go, I don't want people changing it too much. But then when you're with the right team, right, they'll just take it and make it into something even more magical, right? And it's such an amazing feeling, right? Because you were saying that some of these songs that you've put out on Progress, right, they've been going around in your head 30 plus years.
When I first started writing, I wrote, just poured out of me, and we still do probably 5 or 6 of the first 10 songs I ever wrote. So I was on to good songs right from the word go, and that sort of kept me going when other people weren't that enthused by what I was doing. I'm not a natural singer. I've had to work really hard at being able to sing better. And I think it's getting better all the time. Jack recently said that he thinks I'm singing better than ever, which was a really nice compliment, even though I've got some health issues at the moment. But I feel like I'm singing so much better than I ever have.
There's nothing like being in it. There's not like there's one thing, if you sit down with the piano and you do do re mi, when you're by yourself, right, and there's no outlet for that, you can sort of just get. I mean, I definitely struggle with my own practice, right, because I'll be like, oh no, I can't do a major scale. It's game over. I'm never going to keep up with these amazing musicians that I study with, right? But rather than competing with them, I've started competing with myself yesterday, right? And that's the way I work it now. I'm like, okay, cool. Like sometimes you get a setback, sometimes you get some bad feedback or a bad mark, or you play to an empty room for a gig, right? But then, you've sort of got to go, okay, well, why am I doing this? slowly started back up again, and all of a sudden, I mean, I don't know, do you take breaks from your music sometimes?
I sometimes get a bit disheartened thinking, why am I banging my head against a brick wall here, and feel like I don't want to do it anymore, but the next day I'm picking up the guitar and writing a new song. So, I can't not do it.
I went through a massive fight with my guitar. I actually took it out of the case this morning, and it was like seeing an old friend that you'd had an argument with, maybe a couple of months ago, and it was kind of like, it's like I've got such good memories with you, but we've had a fight. And then I sort of picked it up, and then all of a sudden, I was playing Road Tripping by the Chili Peppers, and I'm like, actually, the calluses on my fingers are still there. I can still
feels good. Yeah.
Still feels good. And then you just go, why the fuck was I fighting with it? You just feel so mad. So it sounds like you've got some experience of that too, where it's like, sometimes you have that fight with music, and then you get back together and it's better than ever.
Paul Kelly said to us at the mentorship program, he said, if it's in you, you'll keep doing it even if no one hears you in your bedroom or your lounge room, but eventually the cream will rise to the top. And I think that's sort of happened with me. I've been working hard at this for 30 years, and 2024 could be the best year yet.
Well, was that your first vinyl record? Oh, you had another one before, you said?
Yeah, and I've recorded a couple of CDs years ago, one called Pastel Shades of Suburbia. That was funded by Melbourne City Council. I got a grant from them. But the last two vinyls I've done have been self-funded.
Yeah, cool.
That way I'm not beholden to anybody, and hopefully someone like Mushroom Records will pick it up, and we've already got the hard work done for them.
Got the vinyl,
got
right
the
there.
audience, got the product. I have often dreamed about printing my own vinyl records, and I'm like, am I prepared to sink however many thousands into it? But I can imagine the satisfaction you must have had when you picked that up this morning going,
such a buzz.
Just have a physical...
It's a trophy, isn't it? Yeah.
All up, it's cost about $4,300.
Yeah.
All up. It's with
Did you
the
get 50 done?
artwork, 160.
160. Hey, that's not bad.
Originally, we were going to put two songs on a 7-inch vinyl, have like a double A-sided single, and 4 songs on a 10-inch EP.
A 10-inch, yeah.
But Zenith Records, who did this for us, very helpful there. I could highly recommend anybody if they want stuff done. Very great, friendly staff, and do a great job. They don't do a 10-inch vinyl, so this is a big EP on a full-size album thing, but it's got 3 songs on one side, 3 songs on the other, simply because we couldn't do it the way we originally planned. So this is sort of a plan B, but I'm so pleased that we've done that, because the artwork on the full-size album looks awesome.
Congratulations. Yeah, it's a real achievement,
Thank you.
It's all come together with this. You've got the team together. Greg's helped, the graphic designers helped, and there it is.
And we're lucky enough to have run into a young bloke who's starting off his career as a photographer. He's coming on Saturday night and coming to the bowl. When I mentioned that we're bringing our own photographer to the bowl, it sort of went down like a lead balloon with the organisers, but because they've got 3 photographers there. Benny Clark, who did the one on the back, he's going to be there along with a couple other photographers, but we're bringing our own. That way we know we'll get some photos. I've played lots of gigs where they've been photographers and I've never seen any of them. So, this way we can be guaranteed, so...
Now, it must be very exciting to be playing at the Sidney Myer Music Bowl.
Oh, such a buzz.
It's insane.
So nervous.
It's going to be crazy.
Oh, God.
Such an iconic Melbourne venue. At one point it held the world record for audience. 220,000 people saw the Seekers there in 1963 or something. So I don't think we'll get anywhere near that. But
You can dream.
Just to play there is
Nightmare.
What's the name of the event?
Share the Spirit, put on by Songlines Aboriginal Music.
And how did you get involved with them?
My first wife used to work with a guy called Grant Hansen, who was the host of the Mongrel Footy Show. You might be aware of that, on Channel 31. And Grant introduced me to the community here in Melbourne, because I didn't find out about my Aboriginality until I was 28.
Wow.
I didn't meet my mother and brother and sister till I was 32.
Wow.
Like to say there's been a happy ending to that story, but I can't because we're all damaged goods. It was enough, I think, for all of us to just put a face to the name and then go our separate ways again. And that's not unusual for people in this situation. I've been involved in a survivor support group, and it's a pretty common theme that, too much water's gone under the bridge and you don't feel any bond with, family. They're like strangers. So I always feel alone in the world at a real core level. I hate when Christmas is coming up because you're bombarded with family. I haven't got any extended family, uncles and aunties and cousins and whatever. So
I can't imagine how hard that is. Yeah.
yeah, it's a fundamental need, I think, for people to feel connection to other people. I'm lucky enough that most of my children still want to see me. I've got 6 children from 2 marriages, and I've sort of got contact with 4 of them. The other 2 choose not to, speak to me, but I think they're missing out on, my wisdom that I've accumulated over 66 years. I don't drink, I don't smoke drugs. I used to do a lot of that, but now I don't. And I think I've got something to offer.
Yeah, that's a real journey, actually. Yeah.
It's been, I think alcohol's the biggest drug problem in this country. Don't worry about ice and heroin and all the rest of it. And it's
Advertised right there on the telly.
Yeah, and people,
Next to camping.
that people hide
to
behind the
gambling, yeah.
legality of it. And yet, pretty much every time we play, I guarantee there's someone in the room drinking that shouldn't be. But it's just such a part of Australian life that, like you're going to work and say, I can't remember what I did last night. Oh, you must have had a good night then, sort of thing. It's like a badge of honour, rather than people saying, maybe you should cut down a little bit.
It's that rite of passage. I grew up out in the western suburbs, right? And it was definitely this thing around when you were, 16, 17, 18, right? It was that badge of honour to have gone to the party and drank till you threw up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was instant alcoholic as soon as I started drinking, and I used to black out most times. It's a terrible way to live. Waking up in the morning knowing you've probably upset someone at the very least, but not being able to, put the details together. And that's a terrible way to live.
Yeah, that paranoia of what did I do last night? Yeah.
My biggest fear was waking up in the morning in a police cell and them coming in going, oh, and me going, what? Oh, you just killed 3 people last night. You ran over them at a bus stop or something. Because I used to drink drive a lot. Even if I couldn't stand up, I'd still drive. Madness.
Yeah. Sometimes you look back. I mean, I know I certainly look back at things I've done and I'm like, oh, how the hell did I get away with that?
I truly think I had a guardian angel protecting me for a higher purpose, and I think this is it.
Well, here you are now, spreading the message.
Not just in Aboriginal communities, but in general in Australia, alcohol's a problem, and I think I could be of some use to people sharing my experience, strength and hope. That's what I learned at 12-step groups.
I think that experience is very valuable.
That's the thing that works for me, I think even if you haven't got any addiction problems, having a 12-step program in your life would probably make your life better. For example, taking responsibility for any mistakes that you make rather than trying to blame someone else. I think that's a real problem in our society that, they're always looking for a scapegoat rather than saying, my bad. I haven't been to a 12-step meeting for a little while, but I immersed myself in it for a long time, and whether I like it or not, a lot of my lyrics are infused with 12-step philosophy. So, and I think this is what I'm here to do, why I'm still, around. I think everybody on the planet's got that one thing that they can do that will give them their joy and their bliss, and satisfaction, maybe make a career out of. But unfortunately, a lot of people never find that. I think this is what I'm meant to be doing.
I think you're right. I think I think you've found your thing, and you're very lucky to
I am.
be doing it.
Yeah. And I'm blessed to have such great players around me.
Thank you for having us along with
for
your journey. You know, it's been amazing.
I feel
For bringing us
blessed.
along.
I feel blessed having such good players. And they're all nice people too.
Like it was meant to
Everybody
happen.
has their moments, but, and these are the sorts of people that Aboriginal communities need to get involved. They're allies for the cause. They're good people, good hearts, good souls. And that's the sort of people that will help Aboriginal culture grow. And, it's the longest surviving cultures on the planet here. If that's not worth celebrating by all of us as a nation, what is? Sort of makes me a little bit mad when they find something that's 4,000 years old in Egypt. And everybody gets orgasmic over that. Australia's always good at looking overseas. It's time to start looking in our own backyard and see what great things we've got here.
Agreed. And stop blowing it up for mining companies too. Hey?
Yeah. I truly believe that anything that's still here, we should do our level best to protect, because so much has already been obliterated. So let's just save what we can while we can.
Agreed. A good message. Well, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much for coming on. What have you guys? So we've got the. Oh, you're welcome. You guys have got the gig coming up. This podcast will have happened by then, right? But you've got the
Merry Creek Tavern on Saturday night, Saturday the 20th, and we're playing on a star-studded lineup at the Myer Music Bowl tomorrow week.
And I imagine someone will film that. We should be able to see something of that on your social media.
Yeah.
I think it will be.
I've been told by the organisers that it's going to be filmed really, properly, not just on someone's phone. And
hey, this is filmed on phones.
and I'm hopeful that it might end up on NITV, Rage maybe.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, CJ, the photographer I spoke of before, he put together a film clip of Dreamtime.
Oh, good. How do we find that?
On
how do we find you guys in general?
If you have a look on YouTube, there's plenty of stuff there. I'm hopeless at techo stuff, like I said. I was flicking through the channels on YouTube on my TV at home, and all of a sudden, there we are.
Yeah, we have a YouTube, Instagram, and a Facebook page, I believe. All, I think, Wykd Folk. Wykd Folk.
The benefits of unique spelling, hey?
Yeah.
A lot of people are having a problem with it, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's been an issue with the organisers of the bowl gig not being able to spell it properly. So,
I'm sure they'll fix it up.
Yeah.
well,
I'm sure they'll figure it out.
hopefully. Not sure whether it will be spelt right on any T-shirts that they've got, but as long as it's on the screen behind us at the bowl, spelt right, so it will sink in with people, I'll be happy with that.
I'm sure they'll get it right. They're professionals, aren't they?
Well, Greg, who's organising all our socials and this, that and the other, he's been jumping up and down, not very happy. Come on, get it right. And, he spent a lot of time and effort, and I've spent money getting it happening, getting the brand sort of, going, and for it to be spelt wrong is not on.
Just to repeat it again for the people at home, it is Wykd Folk.
That's it.
Well, Brian, Evan, Alex, thanks so much for coming on. We know how to find you on Instagram. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.